Hello and welcome to the #1 Championship podcast, the second tier. I'm Ryan Dilks, and it's that night, ladies and gents. It's transfer deadline day for the January transfer window. Of course, I'm joined by the Adam Armstrong to my Jorgen Strand Larsen. It's Justin Peach.
Good day to you, Ryan.
Oh, Justin, we have got a lot to get through here tonight, haven't we? There is an awful lot going on here tonight. I mean, I've been keeping tracks of it all day, and it sort of was pretty quiet this morning, but then basically as soon as it turned to the afternoon, it's been carnage ever since.
Yeah, people get their brunch out of the way, don't they? And then they sit down and go, "Oh God, I've got to get some stuff done now. We've got to get these deals done." I'm not suggesting anyone's complacent, but yeah, it's been a weird afternoon in the sense it just feels like you say, it's been quiet, but then it's been deal after deal and rumor after rumor. But I feel like this next hour is going to be pretty hectic, and I feel like the next half an hour after that, as soon as that deadline closes, is going to get even busier because these bloody deal sheets, Ryan.
Yeah, absolutely. These blooming deal sheets. Yeah, that means that we're going to have a lot of deals which are happening after the 7 o'clock deadline passes, which makes it a bit confusing for us, but we should have a good idea of what deals are happening and which aren't. But if you are watching us live tonight, then thank you so much for joining us. Get involved in the conversation, leave a comment and give us any questions or give us any deals that you want us to talk about. We'll try to touch on as many as we can over the forthcoming hour. We'll probably be here just after 7 o'clock, actually, talking about your comments and answering your questions. And if you are here with us right now or watching afterwards, please remember to like this video and subscribe. It's the best way to help support us and the work we do, of course. So yeah, we've got a lot to talk about here today, Justin. I've got my phone ready. I've got my notifications on my phone here. I've got all sorts in front of me looking at the different goings on. I've got agents texting me saying, "Oh, Ryan, you're not going to believe this." So I'm at the center of the orbit of Championship news right now. So we'll try to keep everyone
all done with the Captain America phone case.
Oh, yeah, of course. Well, it's jazzy, isn't it? Can't complain about that. Yeah, so let's dive into some of the deals which have been taking place over the course of the day. Not all of these are done yet, we should say, ladies and gents. There may be some twists and turns, as always, when it comes to deadline day, where one thing looks like it's going to happen and then falls through for whatever reason. But we have had a handful of deals confirmed already. But without a doubt, Justin, the big deal of the day, which looks to be going over the line, involves a very, very familiar face going to Bramall Lane. And that's because Kalvin Phillips looks to be heading to Sheffield United on loan from Man City. The latest reports I've seen is that it's a straight loan, no option to buy. Man City, unsurprisingly, taking on a large chunk of his wages because Sheffield United probably not going to be able to afford the vast amounts of money that he's on a week. But unsurprisingly, Justin, Kalvin Phillips is a very interesting one, isn't it? There's going to be a lot of people who have a lot of takes on how this one is going to go. What are your takes on how this is going to go?
I think it will go really, really well. I know it's quite an easy thing to say at the minute because I'm looking at the Kalvin Phillips we knew at Leeds, who was tremendous, and for England under Gareth Southgate, who again was tremendous. But he's such a player who deserves a lot more credit than what he's had recently, and I think it's down to a bad move, a very, very bad move in Man City, which is ultimately really, really knackered his confidence. It took him a while to get going at Leeds until Marcelo Bielsa took him under his wing and gave him a lot of confidence. And he feels like that sort of player, and it's clearly, problems at Man City and Pep Guardiola unfairly calling out his weight. It seems you look back on that story a while ago. But what you can get with Kalvin Phillips now, especially coming into the Championship, is a player with a lot of intelligence, a hell of a lot of intelligence. And I feel like he will benefit any team, probably sort of 15th in the Premier League or below.
Yeah, well, when you talk about Kalvin Phillips, you have obviously got to keep in mind how his last two loan spells have gone. So, of course, there was the West Ham loan spell, which on paper looked like a fantastic move for West Ham. Obviously, didn't go very well. And I say it didn't go very well. It went pretty disastrously in the end. Then he went to Ipswich on loan last season, which also looked like a good move because Ipswich, fresh up from the Championship and looking for some Premier League quality, some Premier League know-how. That looked like a good move as well. That one went very badly as well. So now we're in a very tricky position in his own career where he needs to figure out what it is that he's going to do next. And it seemed pretty inevitable that a move down to the Championship was the next thing for him. So it had to happen, but at the same time, his wages are so massive that who was going to take him on was the thing. Obviously, it didn't happen in the summer, so he's just been sat around twiddling his thumbs for basically the past few months. And now Sheffield United have swooped in on deadline day and said, we'll give you the chance. Got a comment here from Jess who says, Kalvin Phillips is an interesting one. When we had him at Ipswich, he was dire. Maybe a step down might help him, but how the mighty have fallen. And yeah, absolutely right, Jess. The mighty have really fallen here because at one point he was one of the first names on the team sheet for England, wasn't he? Mm-hmm. And that was only, what, the last Euros? No, sorry, the Euros before last. So not long ago that he was one of the most prized midfielders in the Premier League, and now he's, you know, scraping around to try and find a club in the Championship. But one thing I would say on this, Justin, if there's a manager in the Championship who's going to get Kalvin Phillips back to not necessarily the player he was, but a level that would make him such a force at this level, it's got to be Chris Wilder, hasn't it?
Well, Chris Wilder's very good at getting the best out of players whose careers are done. Billy Sharp hit his best form in his 30s, his best form in his career in his 30s at Sheffield United under Chris Wilder. Likewise, David McGoldrick, Chris Basham, Ollie Norwood. There's a very, very long list. And even with Kalvin Phillips, Chris Wilder can make you enjoy your football again. And Kalvin Phillips needs to enjoy his football again, because a Kalvin Phillips who enjoys his football is a very, very good player to watch, and he's very easy on the eye because his recycling ability with the ball is fantastic. His ball winning ability is also fantastic. He just needs to find a role and feel wanted, and I just don't think that's been the case since he left Leeds in 2022. So this is a big move for him, but it's also a big move for Sheffield United because it's a statement of intent. It really is. You don't just sign Kalvin Phillips because he's going to not contribute to anything. I feel like Sheffield United think they can make a push for that top six. You don't sign.
Of course they can. You're not going out and signing Kalvin Phillips if you're just happy with mid-table mediocrity, are you?
Exactly. That's what I mean. So I feel like that's a real statement of intent from the Blades. However much they're contributing to his wages, even if it's nothing, you've got to convince the guy to drop down a level, and it looks like they might do.
Yeah. If they get him back to even a fraction of the player he was, then he will make such a difference in the Championship, won't he? And look, Sheffield United have got a lot of competition for places in that side. So if he doesn't pull his weight, then, you know, Sidney Peck, Tom Davis, Ollie Arblast, the list goes on, will happily take his place if he isn't pulling up trees. And then you're really asking what next for Kalvin Phillips in his career. But you just think of the player he was. I mean, in the Championship, he was phenomenal, wasn't he? And then when he was in the Premier League with Leeds, he was unbelievable. And you're not getting a move to Man City for several £1 million if you're not a phenomenal player. So I'm really excited by this. Sheffield United fans obviously have every right to be excited about this. Maybe moving back to Yorkshire as well, closer to home, may make a difference for him as well. So yeah, I think everyone wants this move to work out, unless you're from the blue half of Sheffield, of course. But yeah, it's going to be a really, really fascinating one. It sounds like, from what I saw earlier, just in terms of reports, as we say, this is live, ladies and gents. Anything can happen on transfer deadline day. All sorts of reports flying here and about. I did see reports earlier saying that Sheffield United was still after Joe Rothwell on loan from Rangers. So that'd be an interesting one. I'm not sure how that would work. 'Cause then Sheffield United definitely inundated with midfielders, aren't they? They have had a permanent signing, not a permanent signing, a signing confirmed earlier today. That was Leo Hjelde on loan from Sunderland.
Just recruiting from drop down menu. Have played for Leeds. Go on then, Sheffield United. It's the recruitment model here is.
I guess so. Yes, that may be right. But yes, he was on loan at Rotherham a couple of seasons ago.
Yeah.
Moved to Sunderland. Hasn't really played much at all there. I'm not sure how much he's going to play ahead of Harrison Burrows or McAllister. Sam McCallum, sorry, not McAllister.
He's versatile,
at
isn't he?
left
And I
back.
think that Chris Wilder likes that, and he's left-footed. He can play centre half, and he's left-footed. And again, Chris Wilder really favours balance. So if Ben Mee drops out injured, I'd imagine Hjelde might get the opportunity as well. So that's something that Chris Wilder really looks at is balance and versatility in his back line. So yeah, he's not going to be a starter, but could find himself in the team at some point.
It's certainly not a bad option to have, is it? Getting a bit of extra cover in certain areas. If you are watching us live tonight, ladies and gents, then hello. Thank you for joining us. We'll try to read out as many of your comments and your questions over the forthcoming hour or so as we try to round up all of the deadline day deals as they're happening. One club who looked to be particularly busy on this deadline day, Justin, and colour me surprised, Wrexham. That's because they've been linked with so many players today. They've already confirmed the signing of Zach Viner from Bristol City in a deal believed to be around £1.5 million. Davis Keeler-Dunn from Barnsley appears to be one of the big deals happening today. We'll talk about that shortly, Justin. Festi Ebeseli from Istanbul Basaksehir, who was at Derby and Watford previously in the Championship. Terry Devlin from Portsmouth has been linked. The defender who can also play midfield. Bailey Cadamartri from Sheffield Wednesday as well, one of the most sought-after players in the whole of the Championship this window. But first of all, Viner, Justin, that's caused a bit of outrage amongst Bristol City fans that someone who has been at the club for several years now has been allowed to leave. But for Wrexham, do you think that's a good signing?
I think it is a good signing. Obviously, yeah, he's been at Bristol City since he was 7, so he's been there 15 years. So it really is at the end of an era. And I think the most damning thing from a Bristol City point of view is he didn't question ambition. He said Wrexham are they're matching his ambitions, and it's quite a staggering thing to say. But with Viner, I do think it's a good signing. He's a composed defender. He's a reliable defender, and he's someone who's really come forward in recent years. And really looked the convincing player. And he's had a lot of clubs linked with him over the past probably 6 to 8 months as well. So he's been well sought after. But he adds another defensive option. He adds a lot of Championship know-how in that back line as well. It's just whether or not he can break into a very, very solid back line. That's the thing that he's got to do. We also know he can play in midfield as well because he's had to be deployed there out of necessity for Bristol City. So he offers a little bit more versatility than maybe some might imagine, but certainly as a centre half, a comfortable centre half with the ball as well, he's a decent option.
Yeah, Zach Viner for me is just a very steady Eddie when it comes to the Championship. I think he's not someone who I would have looked at and thought, oh, he's going to significantly enhance Wrexham's promotion ambitions, particularly because when it comes to centre halves, I mean, pretty stacked, really, aren't they? Max Cleworth, Dom Hyam, Callum Doyle. Do they really need him, or is he going to play that much? I mean, if they're going out and spending $1.5 million on him, obviously, it's not exactly big change for Wrexham, but it does seem like a bit of a head scratcher for me, unless they're planning on playing him in midfield, and they were so impressed with him at Bristol City. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how much he does play. But look, at the end of the day, when you talk about Wrexham, they just need as much cover as possible, don't they? And we have spoken previously about how when you look at Wrexham's starting 11, that's a really, really good Championship starting 11. But you go past that, you scratch past that, you are looking really at the team who got them promoted. And as we've said on multiple occasions, it's good for League One, but at Championship level, it's not amazing. No. So yeah, Zach Viner definitely helps in that department. I'll be interested to see how much he does play. Maybe he will be replacing one of the 3 I've just mentioned there. I don't know. But you can't go wrong with someone who's got a lot of experience at this level. So yeah, will definitely help Wrexham and Bristol City losing a very experienced player who's been at the club for a long time. You can understand why Bristol City fans are disappointed. Just one of the deals which looks like it's going to be confirmed tonight, and probably one of the big money deals as far as transfer deadline day goes, is Davis Keeler-Dunn signing for Wrexham from Barnsley in a deal believed to be worth around £2 million, probably a bit more north of that. Someone who has scored a lot of goals in the lower leagues of the EFL for quite some time now. In a way, I'm slightly surprised he hasn't moved to the Championship sooner, but he's been linked with several Championship clubs. Seems like Wrexham are the side who are finally going to get him. What do you think to that?
It's an interesting one. Mainly, I say it's interesting. I feel like the forward line's probably one of their strongest positions. They've got Kiefer Moore.
Yeah. We did make the joke in the summer how they seem to sign a million strikers,
Yeah.
and they're still going with signing a lot of strikers.
Yeah, exactly. Don't get me wrong. Davis Keeler-Dunn offers something very, very different to what Kiefer Moore and Sam Smith do. They've got Ryan Hardy, who's hardly been used, and he looks like he's going to be on his way today. So, yeah, I sit there and I think I don't really know where I sit with this one, mainly because, again, you talk about him scoring a lot of goals at the lower levels. Championship will be the highest he's ever played at. I know he played, he's played in the Scottish Premiership, which, again, it's not quite the Championship either, nowhere near it, actually. So this will be the highest level he's played at. He's having a really good season. He's had a really good couple of seasons for Barnsley. But I don't know if they're spending $2 million on him. I mean, it's fairly low risk for Wrexham. It's definitely not Siddiqui Sharif or Adam Armstrong coming in for a combined fee of bloody £100 million. That's sarcasm. Please don't hit me. But it's certainly a low risk move for a player who's in a really good spot of form. I just feel like he will be used sparingly over the next few months, and he'll be on loan at a League One club next season. But as I say, it's low risk. It's low risk.
Maybe. I don't know. I can't predict the future when it comes to this kind of thing. We've got a comment here from Scott who says Wrexham getting some depth and some good competition for the starting 11. It definitely seems like they're going all out to try and get that. Yeah, with Keeler-Dunn, I don't know if you saw the post earlier, Justin, which has been doing the rounds on social media. It's Pete O'Rourke, who's from Football Insider. And he, I presume accidentally, tweeted earlier that 298-year-old Davis Keeler-Dunn looks to be going to Wrexham.
He's in his prime.
He's done well to get a 3-year contract, considering he's that age now. But with Keeler-Dunn, his goal scoring record speaks for itself. Obviously, he's scored a ridiculous amount of goals for Mansfield and for Barnsley over the last year and a half, and he's got a fair few assists in that time. He's really good at linking up the play. It's just, as we say, with the number of forwards Wrexham have got, yes, you can never have enough squad depth, but this does seem like a bit of a head scratcher, that one. But he does offer something different to what they've already got, and yeah, that's what I would say on it. But how much is he going to play? I'm not too sure, to be honest. It is worth mentioning he was at Wrexham when they were in the National League, so it's a nice little turnaround from there. I think he was there for literally 6 months and didn't earn a contract. And look how things have gone from there. Scored a ridiculous amount of goals, and could have been at the centre of this big rising through the leagues if they decided to stick with him. But yeah, that'll be one that looks pretty certain to go through before everything is wrapped up here today. Just seeing if there's any updates on that. Doesn't appear to be so far. Let's talk about some of the other deals Wrexham appear to be getting through the door. Festi Ebaselli, as I say, from Istanbul, Basak Sahir, Terry Devlin from Portsmouth, Bailey Cadamartri from Sheffield Wednesday, all have been linked. Cadamartri, the last I saw, looks to be happening. The other two, not too sure at the moment, but what do we think about those 3 deals, Justin?
I suspect it'll be one of Ebaselli or Devlin. They need a right wing back. Obviously, Issa Kabore's been injured, and they need that balance. Fairly different players, Ebaselli and Devlin. I think Ebaselli's probably more of the Kabore mould, although Kabore's got a lot more about him. And product-wise, Ebaselli, since he was at Derby, don't really think he's pushed on. He's just sort of stalled a little bit, and his Watford loan was cut short last season as well. Cadamarteri, I think, has got a very high ceiling. I think he's probably been dealt a series below this season in playing in that Sheffield Wednesday team where he's had a lot of game time, but not a lot of chances, and confidence hasn't been particularly high. But I feel like he's a player who's got a high ceiling, and from the looks of it, you could probably get him quite cheap. I know Blackburn have been pestering Sheffield Wednesday for him up until now, so they will be kicking themselves when they see that the final fee will probably be less than £2 million. They probably should have stumped it up because again that ceiling is quite high for him. So I think Devlin would be a good signing, but I don't think Portsmouth will let him go unless the bid is a bit daft. Ebersel is probably a lot more likely, and he's a good right wing. He's a good right wing back option at this level, and Cadamarteri I think is one for the future. But again, signing Davis Keeler-Dunn and Bailey Cadamarteri on the same day doesn't really make sense. You may as well get one or the other, and I'd probably side for age here rather than experience.
As I say, Wrexham love signing strikers, don't they? And Cadamarteri seems to be the latest one coming through the door. Yeah, that would be a bit of a strange one in itself because he is almost certainly not going to play much this season. So unless he's been sent back out on loan somewhere, probably not Sheffield Wednesday.
It's a lot to do in the last hour, isn't it?
Well, yeah.
Sign him, send him out.
Well, we don't know because otherwise it just seems like a bit of a strange move. Of course, he's one for the future, but you want him playing games this season. He's obviously played a lot for Sheffield Wednesday because he haven't got anyone else. So he's had a lot of experience at Championship level, and as you say, it's been one of the most sought after players in the division this window. I think that is purely based on the fact that Sheffield Wednesday need to raise funds. He's one of their, if not their most promising prospect, and you're looking at getting him for a cut price. So it makes sense for any Championship club to go out and get him. With Wrexham, he's probably going to the one club there where he's almost certainly not going to play out of the clubs who I can think he's been linked with off the top of my head. So a bit of a strange one. Ebersel, I think you may be being slightly harsh on. I don't know how he's been getting on in Turkey, admittedly, but when he was at Watford last season, I think it was, he did stand out, and he's always caught the eye for Ireland fans whenever he plays for the Irish national team. I loved him when he was at Derby. The lad is absolute gas. He is rapid, and he will be thrilling for any Wrexham fan who's never seen him play before. I can promise you that. His end product obviously needs improving, but he's still young. He's got a lot of strength as well. He's just a very, very fun player to watch. So, yeah, if he goes to Wrexham, that'll be great. And he would definitely give them an extra element on that right-hand side, which they've definitely been missing with Issa Kabore getting injured. So, yeah, it'd be interesting to see which one of those does come in, whether it's Devlin or Ebersel. Who should we go to next, Justin? Should we talk about Southampton? Because they're busy in a sense, in the way that it appears to be a case of who's going to be coming and going, more emphasis on the going part of that. One player who definitely seems to be going is Adam Armstrong. Well, I say definitely. So the Adam Armstrong one's a bit of a funny one because in a strange way, it all seems to link with Jean-Philippe Mateta going to AC Milan. Yeah. How that links to Adam Armstrong, I hear you ask. So it appears that Jean-Philippe Mateta going to AC Milan opened the door for Jurgen Strand Larsen going from Wolves to Crystal Palace. Now, and that obviously led to Adam Armstrong going from Southampton to Wolves. But in the past couple of hours, it appears that Mateta going to AC Milan has fallen through. So what that now means for the other two transfers, it's a bit unclear right now. Mm-hmm. The last I saw is that Larsen's medical had been complete. So whether that deal is still going to happen, I don't know. Either way, we'll sit here and assume right now that Adam Armstrong is going to be heading out the door. But what do we think to that, Justin? Because it's a bit of a weird one for someone who has a terrible record in the Premier League, but B, is not having the greatest of seasons, even in the Championship.
Yeah, it's been
even though we have scored a lot of goals this season at the same time, quite confusing.
Yeah, I mean, firstly, that Mateta deal is going to impact deals in Saudi. It's quite ridiculous how much is hinging on him moving to AC Milan. But with firstly Adam Armstrong, I feel like it's a right time for him to move. It does show that Southampton are well stocked with forwards. I mean, Ben Diaz left earlier on, or left in the summer. Cameron Archer as well is there. Damien Downs has already gone this window. There's a lot that's been happening in that final third. It's probably quite bold of Southampton to sell their top goal scorer with Adam Armstrong to Wolves at this stage.
Well, we did have those reports that we talked about a week or two ago where he said he wanted a new challenge. So he was quite clearly keen on a new experience. And I didn't expect it to be Wolves that he was going to. It seemed very much like it was Wrexham who he was destined to go to, didn't it?
It's going to be quite the experience, we can say that, at Wolves. He's going to set another record points low total, isn't he? Oh, yeah,
his Premier League record, in terms of goals and appearances, is poor. But now you look at the number of relegations he's had. Wolves will still say maybe they've got a chance after a bit of an upturn in form under Rob Edwards. But you say the odds are still very much against him, aren't they?
Yeah, they definitely are. Rat Edwards, we should say. But it's just an interesting move. But Southampton clearly need to. They're probably looking at getting some of the higher earners out whose contracts are coming to an end. With Cameron Archer, it's again, I'd absolutely keep him around. I think it's daft to let him leave today. I don't think it will happen. But you can never really tell it on transfer deadline day. He's a good forward. He's a good forward, and if you give him games, if you give him confidence, he's gonna score goals because he's probably the best finisher at the club. He's certainly one of the most deadly strikers in the Championship if you get him going. But it's quite interesting that other than Adam Armstrong, to an extent, I know he scored goals this season, but he also missed a lot of chances. A lot of strikers have really struggled on the South Coast, haven't they? They've really, really struggled.
Well, it's funny because if you go back to the start of the season, the number of people I saw who said Southampton should be getting promoted on their strike force alone because, of course, Adam Armstrong, Cameron Archer, Ross Stewart, Ben Brereton Diaz, Damien Downs, all those guys coming in. And now we're looking like... It looked at one point like we were only going to have one of them left in the form of Ross Stewart because Cameron Archer was being linked with a move to Rangers. That doesn't seem to be happening now, is the latest I've seen anyway. So we don't know what's happening there. But as Chris here says, the new guy coming in for his looks useless. We will be relying on Ross Stewart to stay fit. The guy Chris is referring to there is Sile Larin, a Canadian international striker who looks to be joining on loan from Real Mallorca. I don't think that's been confirmed in the past hour or so. But he was on loan at Feyenoord in the first half of this season. From what I've seen, doesn't look to have had a great time there. So a bit of a strange one, Justin.
I'm just looking at his FootMod profile. He's only played 152 minutes of Feyenoord, but it's all red. It's all red. Yeah, this could be really funny in a satire way, if you like. Maybe some gallows humour going Southampton's way. Yeah, that recruitment. It's not data led. Surely it's not data led.
Yeah, it does seem a bit like you've just gone for anyone who's available. So how they've ended up with, I mean, he may end up to be fantastic. I haven't seen him play, to be quite frank, but his everything you read about him doesn't sound too promising. So how they've gone from having that ridiculous strike force to having to draft this guy in on transfer deadline day seems a bit remarkable, doesn't it? Can
we just point out the recruitment strategy at Southampton for a second? Because we know it's bad, but the fact that they spent money on Damien Downs last summer, didn't get going, didn't really get a lot of opportunity, and didn't look fresh or firing in the first half of the season, goes out on loan, and then Southampton find themselves short of strikers to the point where they have to go out on loan. I'm not quoting anyone here, a donkey. What's going on? It's not great, is it? It doesn't look great.
No, it obviously doesn't look great. We've just had it confirmed, Justin, that Davis Keeler-Dunn has now signed for Wrexham from Barnsley. We've already talked about that one, but that's going to be very interesting to see how he gets on. But yeah, who knows how Southampton's season is going to pan out now, because despite them having a strike force which on paper looked like it was going to absolutely destroy the Championship. It's obviously not panned out that way. So yeah, it's, in my view, it looks like they're massively relying on Ross Stewart staying fit now, as Chris was just saying a second ago, because he's the only one who's shown any sort of sustained form when he stayed fit this season. One other thing on Southampton to mention is that Taylor Harwood-Bellis was being strongly linked with a move to West Ham, but that seems to have fallen through for whatever reason. So he is going to be staying on the South Coast from the looks of things. We've got a comment here from Jake who says, "Hey guys, love listening to your podcast while I do my uni work." You should be focusing on your uni work, Jake, but for the meantime, stay tuned for us. And we greatly appreciate your support here. If you are listening to us live this evening, then leave a comment and give us any questions that you want us to answer. If there's any moves in particular which you want us to talk about, then let us know. We'll try to read out as many comments as we can over the forthcoming show. I was going to say forthcoming hour, but we've been talking here for half an hour now, Justin. How's time gone that quickly? We need to fly through a few more of these deals, really, don't we? Let's talk about Millwall, because they've made a couple of signings. In fact, we've seen a reunion, Justin, of the team that won the playoff final last season, because Anthony Patterson has now had his loan confirmed from Sunderland, and he's been joined by Tommy Watson, who's also joined on loan from Brighton, of course, scoring the winning goal in the playoff final back in May. We've also had it confirmed that Wes Harding has gone to Plymouth on loan as well. But Anthony Patterson and Tommy Watson, we spoke about Patterson briefly in the past, but what do we think about Tommy Watson going? I think that could be a really tasty move.
I think he's a bit of a masterstroke, to be honest with you, because there's probably some, I wouldn't say unfulfilled potential, because it's unfair, because he's still a bloody kid. But there's certainly, we saw glimpses of what he's capable of last season. If you remove the playoff final impact out of that, he was tremendous for a very good period of games for Sunderland in sort of the early winter, middle third of last season. And then he picked up a couple of knocks, couldn't really get fit, and then the team was sort of rolling on at that point. But as a winger, he's an effortless player. He really, really is. I mean, the goal that he scored in the playoff final was, he side-footed it into the corner of the goal, 22 yards out or wherever it was. Fantastic finish, to the point where I don't think Mike Cooper could have really done much about it. It was a beautiful, incisive finish. Like I said, he's got that ability to just be elegant on the pitch. And I think when you've got Femi Aziz on one side, who's so good, they needed a little bit more on the left, and Tommy Watson adds that, but he also adds a little bit of depth as well, and quality, which you can never be short of at this level, at this stage of the season.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely spot on. Watson, still a very young lad, but when he first broke into the Sunderland team, he looked like such a thrilling player. We heard reports of how highly rated he was at Sunderland, and they were absolutely gutted to see him leave for Brighton. But that's how things turn out. And he's obviously needed game time. He did get injured last season, but then because of obviously his future going elsewhere, Sunderland didn't seem that keen to, play him as much as they probably would have done if he was still going to be at the club past the summer. So how he gets on in the Championship now is going to be really, really fascinating. I think there'll be a lot of Sunderland fans very keen to see how he gets on. But for all the reasons you mentioned now, I think he could be brilliant. He definitely doesn't lack confidence whenever I've seen him on a pitch. But he's got that beautiful enthusiasm which you have in a young player like him. And for a side like Millwall, who are not short on options out wide, it'll be interesting to see how much he does play. But assuming he does hit the ground running, it could be an absolutely remarkable move for the Wall. Let's talk Leicester, Justin, who are obviously one of the more interesting clubs to cover when it comes to the transfer business, because they're obviously cutting it very close to the line when it comes to PSR. So they've left a lot of their business. Well, I said they left a lot of their business. They've left all their business to the very last moment, because up until this point, they haven't signed anyone this January. We have had one move confirmed already today. That's Joe Aribo from Southampton on loan. Of course, midfielder, hasn't played much at all for Southampton this season, but has been very good for them in the past. Jamal Lascelles from Newcastle has been linked. I assume that's a permanent deal. He is out of contract in the summer, so I think some sort of a some sort of agreement is coming through there. And Divine Mukasa looks to be coming on loan from Man City as well. What do we think about those signings, Justin?
Joe Rebo's an interesting one, mainly because I don't think Leicester really need that profile of player. He's good in possession, he's a good technical player. Not played a lot this season. I bet he cannot wait to get away from Southampton because he feels like he's been used sparingly, but he's certainly got a little bit more pizzazz, if you like, in that final third, which Leicester don't lack. But he probably adds a lot more personality than what they've got. Jamal Lascelles, I think, is actually a very, very good signing for this Leicester squad because he's a leader. Newcastle fans are understanding of him going because he's barely been playing, but I'm really sad to see him go because of his leadership roles in the squad and how much he's been involved in things behind the scenes as well. So I think that's a really clever signing, It's just injuries are a problem for him. A lot of muscle injuries. I think there's a cruciate injury in there somewhere, and he is 32. So this is a very Leicester deal, isn't it? Sort of high-profile player who's somewhat injury-prone and come to the end of his career. As for Divine Masaka, couldn't tell you much about him. He's a teenager on loan from Man City. Just looking at his some of his details now, he's made a couple of appearances for Man City this season already, which is a positive. And he's got a bit of creativity about him again, so it's clearly a profile of player Leicester are after. But I'd argue that they're absolutely gagging for a number 9. They've not got one. That's probably the biggest problem I think Leicester have got now.
Yeah, the Lascelles one is a really interesting one because, as you say, he's been at Newcastle for a long old time now, hasn't he? I mean, I think he was at Newcastle when they were in the Championship last time, which goes to show how long it's been since he moved to the northeast. But you're right to point out how little he's played in the past couple of years. He's only made 2 appearances for Newcastle in the Premier League since the end of March 2024. So that's how little game time we're talking about here. So what level he's at now, how fit is he? Is he ready to make an impact straight away at Leicester? I don't know. I would say they need an experienced head in there because you look at Leicester, they are in a right old state, aren't they? So any experience like that, I think, goes a long way. So yeah, when you put it like that, makes sense. It's just concerns about how much he's played in the last 2 years. And then Aribo, I don't know much about Musaka, I will admit, but Aribo was playing regularly for Southampton when they got promoted a couple of years ago. So he's a tidy player, can knit things together in midfield. And I think you look at someone like Jordan James, definitely needs help in midfield. So that could be a very nice move. The interesting thing for me would be knowing what the finances are on these deals, because when it comes to Leicester and PSR, we keep going on about it, but finding out how close to the line they are with all that, yeah, would be really, really interesting. One club who obviously in a bit of a state themselves financially is Sheffield Wednesday, where for much of the transfer window, it's been a case of who's staying and who's going. And that's still very much the case now. I saw reports earlier linking Svante Ingelsson with a move away. We've already talked about Bailey Cadamarteri. Who else is going to be coming in or out? We shall see. But it does look like they are going to be getting some signings through the door. Justin Teo Adaramola from Crystal Palace has joined on loan. He's a left back, so looks to be a straight replacement for Harry and Mass. Marvellous the Kamba seems to be on his way to Hillsborough on a free transfer. Of course, was at Luton and played a big role in their promotion 3 years ago. But injuries and just a lack of form have meant he's not played that much. So it looks like that deal is, his contract at Luton now is being cancelled, so he can move to Wednesday on a free transfer. And Joel Ndala looks to be moving on loan as well, who has been on loan at Hull. He's a winger. He's caught the eye on occasion in a Hull shirt, but not nearly enough. So I think that loan has now been terminated, which means he looks like he's now going to be heading to Hillsborough. I think the Kamba there is the most interesting one, Justin, because once upon a time he was an unbelievable midfielder in the Championship, wasn't he? But things obviously haven't gone too well since. But for Wednesday, he could definitely do a job.
Oh, he can definitely do a job. He somewhat changed I won't say changed the fortunes of Luton when they went up into the Premier League. That promotion season under Nathan Jones and Rob Edwards. I wouldn't say he changed the fortunes, but he had such a big impact in adding a lot more steel into that midfield and quality as well on the ball. Not quite hit that form. He definitely hasn't hit that form for a very long time now. But look, the market that Sheffield Wednesday are batting in, please, can we have you? Isn't it? It's not a fruitful market, but it's one where players can go there and recover themselves and get their career going once again if they capture some form. And this is Nakamba's chance. Similarly with Joel Ndala, who's, like I said, caught the eye at Hull, not quite worked out, he's not quite convinced, and they've got so many loan players now. It made sense that he was going to go, but he can really add something to Sheffield Wednesday's attack that they probably don't have now, which is a little bit of pace,
working legs.
The man's he's below 30 and he can run. There we go.
Yeah, I think Ndala might actually be a really good signing for Wednesday because he did impress me on occasion in a Hull shirt. I don't know what Hull fans would, how they would review him, but every time I saw him, he looked like a pretty tidy little player. So yeah, I think that's a pretty decent move. I'm surprised there weren't more Championship clubs looking at him. Nakamba, I mean, it says a lot about where Sheffield Wednesday are, doesn't it? That they're getting a player who wasn't wanted by a club who are not even in the top 6 in League One, and that's who they're getting. But look, he's got a lot of experience. You know, Sheffield Wednesday. Yeah, Sheffield Wednesday.
He's got a lot of experience.
Sheffield Wednesday are obviously in the position that they're in, and any working pair of legs, and Marvellous Nakamba definitely has working legs because that man can run. But you know how good a player he is nowadays. He's obviously not at the stage that he was 3 years ago when he got promoted with Luton. But yeah, a lot of experience and can fill a hole in midfield for Wednesday at the very least. Let's talk Norwich, Justin, because they have confirmed the signing of Mohamed Toure, who's a striker who's joined from Randers over in Denmark in a deal believed to be worth around £2.6 million. I would assume that means Kasper Hoff isn't going to be joining from Bodo Glimt over in Norway. For those who aren't aware of who Kasper Hoff is, he's the lad who's been having a remarkable run of form in the Champions League for Bodo Glimt, scoring twice against Man City, scored the winner against Atletico Madrid in the Champions League last week. That move got Norwich fans very excited, but I'm assuming that isn't happening now. What that means for the future of Josh Sargent is interesting, but look, when it comes to a new striker, Norwich were clearly in the market for one, Justin, despite the form of Jovan Makama. But yeah, I don't expect you to tell me everything about this lad, but a striker was definitely on the list. They look like they're getting one.
Yeah,
well, they have got one, in fact.
Yeah, it might open up the door for Sargent to leave because they've got a little bit more depth there, or they might be bitter, like I would be bitter, and keep him in the under-21s.
They're not going to do that, are they?
Well, I would, and
you turned down £15 million to let a player rot in the reserves.
Absolutely, okay. Ryan. It's all about principle, and that's priceless. That is. But with Torres, I don't know a lot about him. Not been watching a lot of Danish football. There's been a lot of players come from Scandinavia into the Championship over the last 12 months. Some have been a success, some haven't. They obviously brought in Matthias Kvistgaarden as well from Scandinavia, who has had his injury problems, has scored a couple of times, and maybe he's up for a big second half of the season, especially playing off Jovan Makama. But Torre's got a job to get into that team. He's of a good age. He's 21, so there's clearly a recruitment strategy there to buy young and see what they can do. But for me, it would be wise not to rush him in. I think Sam Field's a very smart pickup, to be honest with you. He's dropped down the pecking order at QPR. QPR's midfield's been fantastic. I really could see Sam Field having a big impact in the limited games he's probably going to play because Matson's been good in that midfield alongside Kenny McLean. But Sam Field he feels like he's missed a championship at this point. He knows what he's doing.
Got a comment here from Charlie who says, I would keep Josh Sargent in the under-21s too. There's a lot of very bitter people.
It's not bitter. Principled people.
Turning down £15 million for a striker who doesn't want to play for you anymore when you've got a replacement. Have you been keeping track of the Championship over the past few years? It's good business sense is what I would say. You did jump ahead there when it came to talk about Sam Field possibly joining on loan from QPR. That's absolutely fine, Justin, because I think that could be a very good signing as well. Sam Field's always someone I've been a fan of, and I don't have much of a look in at QPR, mainly down to, I think, just the standard midfielders they've got now with the likes of Jonathan Varane, Nicholas Madsen, all in good form this season. Sam Field in the past has been, particularly underlying data-wise, has always been a midfielder who stood out. So seeing how he gets on at Norwich, I think he could be a really good pickup. For anyone who's wondering what the signing of Toure means for Josh Sargent, I have just Googled when the MLS transfer window closes. It don't close until the end of March. So when it comes to that, there's still a lot of time for Norwich can figure out. Maybe you could do that if you're very bitter and don't care about money for whatever reason. But when it comes to that, there's still a lot of time before Norwich need to stop panicking and worrying about whether they're going to be missing out on getting the money for Sargent. And maybe there's time to patch up any damaged relationships there as well. But if you are listening or watching this live tonight on our YouTube live stream, ladies and gents, with the transfer window roundup, then hello, thank you for joining us. Please leave a comment or any questions that you want us to answer, and we'll try to read out as many comments as we can over the forthcoming. We'll probably be here for another half hour or so, just in. We did say we are going to be here until 7 o'clock, but we'll probably have a little debrief after the deadline passes, which is just 13 minutes away now, ladies and gents. Not long now until the deadline officially passes. But as always, when it comes to this kind of thing, there's always deals which get announced after the deadline closes. We'll try to wrap up as much as we can. Let's talk Coventry, Justin, because obviously they're in a position right now where they could really do with a couple of additions just to help steady the ship, which definitely needs steadying after the recent round of results. They've got in Frank Onyeka on loan from Brentford, a ball-winning midfielder who was on loan at Augsburg last season. Has played a few games for Brentford in the Premier League after joining a few years ago now. We have said on many occasions that Coventry could really do with a bit of steel in midfield, and they seem to be getting that with Onyeka.
Absolutely they are. I know we spoke about it briefly over the weekend. I think it would be a tremendous signing. It's not everything they need. I still feel like they need another defender. I really, really do. They need more leaders. But Onyeka at least plugs a gap skill-wise that they've got in that squad since Ben Sheaf left in the summer, which is a ball-winning player who's full of energy, and has got that quality as well. He's been playing top flight football for a very long time. Went to Nigeria with AFCON, for AFCON as well, which is a big plus, an international player. I think it is with an option to buy in the summer should they get promoted as well, which would be a smart signing. But the skill gap that they've got quality-wise in that midfield, Matt Grimes, I think, has probably been begging for this signing to come in. Might change how they set up going forwards because he's one less. He's one less, I wouldn't say attack-minded player, but he's certainly not going to favour attacking play. So he's one less body in the final third, but that's a benefit for Coventry because they need one more body in the defensive third, and that's Frank Onyeka.
Yeah, I'm not going to disagree with too much of that. I think that's perfectly summed up, quite frankly. Let's talk about Stoke, because they have now actually confirmed this move in the past hour, Justin. Jesser Raksaki has joined on loan from Crystal Palace, someone who was on loan at Sheffield United last season. Did shine in spells, didn't he? He played a load of games for them in their season where they were in obviously contention for promotion for most of it, and then fell at the final hurdle in the Championship playoff final. I'm surprised that he wasn't on loan at a Championship club prior to this. I don't know why that didn't happen in the summer, whether Crystal Palace wanted to give him some game time, but he's now here in the Championship, Justin, with Stoke. I think that's a very good signing.
I think it's a quality signing. What they've lacked is depth and balance. They've relied heavily on Sorba Thomas and Menhoff. Raksaki, what he adds is another direct quality player who can play out wide. He had a really good, I'd say, third of a season for Sheffield United. It didn't quite pan out, and he did lose his place for large chunks of last season. And you're right, I seem to remember him being linked with a lot of clubs during the summer, but nothing really coming about, whether that's him staying at Palace to fight for his place, whether that's Palace not feeling that a loan move was right for him, etc., etc. But there's been a lot of clubs talking about Raksaki, and I think Stoke getting him is a huge benefit. And he's a goal threat as well. He's a very good goal threat. And Manhoff is a player that I'm not overly convinced by. He's a very good spell player, but I think Raksaki can offer you a little bit more, and at least then if Manhoff's out of form, you can bring in Raksaki, whereas they've not really had that depth in wide areas. They're still short of a striker, though, aren't they, Stoke? That's the big thing.
Yeah, I'm quite surprised I haven't seen anything in the way of a striker seemingly coming through the door at Stoke, unless sometimes when it comes to transfer deadline day, there'll be a deal announced after everything has quietened down, which you're like, where the hell has that come from? And maybe that'll be the case with Stoke and the striker, because that does seem like a gazing gap in that team. But look, when it comes to Raksaki, him and Sorba Thomas on either wing is pretty thrilling, isn't it, from a Stoke perspective? You're right, Millie Manhoff sometimes looks like an unbelievable player, but you don't see it on enough occasions. He's still fairly young, so maybe that will get better in time. But Raksaki can definitely offer Stoke a different element in that final third. Would definitely be a lot better if they had a striker. But yeah, I think that's a really, really promising move for Stoke. Got a comment here from David who says, I'm always nervous for new signings halfway through the season. I don't want any new players to screw up Middlesbrough's form. Well, let's talk about Middlesbrough right now, David, because it's very much been a case of seeing who's going out the door, really, for Middlesbrough. There were reports earlier in the day that they had rejected an offer from Nottingham Forest for Hayden Hackney. Very optimistic move on Forest's behalf, seeing, oh, Middlesbrough, do you fancy giving away your star player on the final day of the transfer window when you're in the promotion places? Surprisingly, Forest, no. So that will never seem like it was going to happen. Matt Targett is set to stay after there were a bit of speculation that he may be recalled from his loan there. Sverre Nipan has had his loan terminated at Middlesbrough. Obviously, signed by Man City in the summer, which was a very exciting move for Middlesbrough, getting him on loan at the time, Justin, but just hasn't worked out, has it? A bit of a strange one. I did see Man City say that they were happy with his development at Middlesbrough, but hasn't really done anything, has he?
Well, yeah, that's such a bloody Man City. These big clubs, yeah, it's not worked out. I maybe think that it was probably a player who was going to fit into Edwards' system, as opposed to Hellberg's system. That being said, if you're developing, you've got to be able to fit. And he probably feels a little bit more perfect for Hellberg's system than he does Rob Edwards'. Nonetheless, it hasn't worked out. He's not been as impactful as Middlesbrough needed him. Some of the younger players that have come through, I'm not going to reel off the names because I can't quite remember them off the cuff, but they've had young players come in this season, like Alex Gilbert, for example, who's probably had more of an impact than Nipan. But what that does is obviously frees up wages, and it might offer an opportunity for Borough to dip in very late in the market themselves. The Hayden Hackney stuff is funny because it's just like, what are you doing going for one of the division's best players, a club's best player, who's homegrown, 3 hours, 6, 3, 4, 5, 6 hours before the transfer deadline? Can you be any thicker? Really? Yeah, come on.
It's just not going to happen, is it? Let's be frank. Especially after they've just had Nipan go out the door. Every time I saw Nipan, he was mostly off the bench for Borough, but he did look like he had a bit about him. But when you've had two managers look at him and say he's not for me, then that it is a bit of a strange one, because he's very highly rated, isn't he? When he went to Man City, obviously if he'd been signed by Man City, then that's obviously a good sign. But he's very highly regarded by people who have seen him a lot more than me. So, yeah, why that's not worked out, I don't know. Whether we'll see him make a late move to another Championship club, I don't know. But he's regarded very highly, and I'm sure we'll go on to have a fantastic career. But this move just haven't worked out for whatever reason. Middlesbrough have also brought in someone on deadline day, Justin. Joe Wildsmith, the goalkeeper from West Brom, on loan. So, yeah, that's going to change everything.
Justice for Joe Lumley.
Let's talk Derby, Justin, because the big question mark on a lot of Rams fans' lips heading into this day was, is Sammy Szmodics going to be coming through the door? That doesn't look to be happening as we sit here right now. It seems like they've been priced out of that move by Ipswich. They do look to be getting in Derry Merkin, though, from FC Utrecht. I won't profess to know a lot about him, but I know he's a left-back. I would tell you Derby very much needed a left back. Have you got any takes on that at all?
Just the internet meme that came out a few years ago. You know, the one there, the old
Catch him,
guy.
Derry.
Yeah, he's trying to catch a bat in the kitchen.
The old Irish fella trying to catch the bat in the kitchen. He's going, catch him, Derry.
Yeah,
All right, he's making a fool of you, lad.
Derry Merkin gets the ball down the left flank. Catch him, Derry.
Catch him, Derry. Yeah, I have nothing else to add there. We've got 4 minutes left of the transfer window, ladies and gents. So if your club is still in the market for a player, you better hope they're getting a blooming move on. We will be talking here for another, let's say, 15, 20 minutes or so. So if you have got any questions, please send them our way. We'll fly through some of these, Justin. Let me know if any of these catch your attention. West Brom, as we said earlier, look to be getting Svante Ingelsson from Sheffield Wednesday. That was one report I've seen earlier. I haven't seen anything since about that, so whether that's still happening or not, I don't know. Jamaldine Jimo Aloba on loan from Aston Villa. Yep, Hindalo Mustafa also looks to be joining on loan from Crystal Palace. Samuel Inning Jr.'s loan is set to be terminated. That one just doesn't seem to have worked out at all. One thing I will say on that, actually, Jimo Aloba and Mustafa, both a couple of young lads. West Brom, I think, are screaming out for a bit more experience, aren't they, as opposed to just drafting in young lads. These lads might be fantastic, I don't know. But considering their current position, it seems a bit odd.
A bit odd with a manager who feels right now he's out of his depth. Can't profess to know too much. I don't know anything about them. Obviously, the young lads coming in, like you said, the experience side of things is an issue. Svante Ilkesson, I'll jump on him quickly because he's sort of very obvious. A lot of clubs have been linked with him. Portsmouth, Derby, a lot of clubs have been linked with him. It would be a smart move, but again, central midfield is probably not a priority for West Brom. Don't actually know what the priority would be. They need a right wing back. I don't know if Mustafa or Jimo
I'd say
Aloba.
a winger. But they lost Tom Fellow so late in the summer, didn't they? But
Eric Ramsey's not playing wingers, is he?
Well, okay, he's playing a sort of three up front now, isn't he? And at the weekend he played.
He could have fooled me.
Well, he played Mikey Johnston and Isaac Price behind Hegerber, and I mean, it didn't look great. So just some more attacking depth, I think, would have been very much needed, but that's not happened for whatever reason. So I'm not looking at this transfer window with much amazement when it comes to West Brom. We have got 2 minutes left before the window closes, Justin. They've got a lot of comments here from Ipswich fans asking about their hunt for a striker, which we'll get onto very shortly. Patrick Roberts joining Birmingham on a permanent deal from Sunderland. Not what I was expecting. I didn't think that was going to be coming through as a permanent. But what do you think to that?
It's smart. He's been so impactful for Birmingham, and he's been a key player in that final third for a very, very boring side in possession at times, and he's been the difference maker. Obviously, Carlos Vicente coming in maybe changes things a little bit because he's likely to be a starter, and it's probably that's the most surprising thing about this transfer being made permanent right now. But I think Patrick Roberts is a player who has proven time and time again that he can get himself back into the first team picture. So he's up for the fight. And I think when you've got a player like that, it's going to helpful. But yeah, it's good depth in the final third. And it made sense for Birmingham to make that permanent because he's been quite positive for them.
Yeah, absolutely. He's a difference maker, and he can turn something into nothing, and something into nothing into something. So that's always very good. But Justin, we've got to take a moment now. It's officially 7 o'clock, ladies and gentlemen. That means the transfer window for January is officially closed. That is it. If your club has not done the business you're hoping for the rest of the season, I'm afraid time has run out. So now it's a case of seeing who can get those deals done, which are in the process of being done, who can get them done in time, and make sure that you click submit on any transfer documents that need submitting. So over the forthcoming few hours or so, I'm sure we'll have some deals which are still going through, even though the deadline has now passed. But that is it. The English winter transfer window has now closed, ladies and gents. So it'll be interesting to see which deals do get confirmed in the forthcoming few hours. So yeah, keep an eye on social media as time goes on. But we'll have another 10-15 minutes, Justin, when we're just kind of rounding off everything which we haven't talked about so far. I did see Preston being linked with a move for a couple of wingers. Callum Lang from Portsmouth has been one which has been bubbling over the past few days. That did look like it was definitely going to happen, but I haven't seen anything at all really today to say that that it is going to be going through. But I assume that's still the case. Andy Moran from Brighton as well, who was at Blackburn previously on loan.
Stoke as well.
And Stoke, yes, you're right. Seems to be one that is going to be going through. Anything that tickles your fancy there?
I mean, Harrison Armstrong's been confirmed that he's not coming back. That was just would have been yesterday. Actually, that was the case. Andy Moran, I feel like he's a player who has the window's closing on him quite quickly in terms of sort of hitting his potential, because he's shown flashes of brilliance and then he's really not quite got to where he's needed to go. And I think he's been at LAFC, hasn't he? He's been in the MLS on loan. I feel like I wouldn't pull that out of my arse.
I'm just double checking that
very
now.
Specific information.
You are right.
Yeah.
He was at Los Angeles FC. Was recalled after just making 8 appearances. Although it wasn't that, it was quite late on in the MLS season. In fairness to him.
Yeah, but he's a player who Preston need his quality, but I feel like Preston are a much weaker squad now than when they went into the window. Having seen Armstrong get recalled, Thordarson was sold as well, although he wasn't an automatic starter. If they get Callum Lang over the line, that'd be great. If they get Moran over the line as well, that'd also be great, but they do lack in midfield as well now.
Yeah, well, Paul Heckingbottom has been very frustrated with the lack of business that's been going on at Preston, so he'll be definitely hoping that those two come through. I assume Lang is on a permanent deal. Andy Moran, not sure whether that's permanent or on loan. Still only 22. He's fairly young, but has played a fair few games in the Championship without pulling up many trees. So we'll see if that one comes through. Let's talk Ipswich, Justin, because you've got a few comments here from Ipswich fans. This is from Max, who says, "Morning from Australia, lads. No striker coming in at Ipswich by the looks of it. Arrogance or ignorance?" Brownie asks. Says Ipswich's refusal to bring in a striker is very concerning. That George Hurst isn't good enough, nor is Ivan Azon's finishing ability. Yeah, I am just seeing that Ipswich have had multiple bids turned down on deadline day for Femi Aziz. So an interesting one. Do they need another right winger? Interesting. But let's focus on what's at hand here, Justin, which is that hunt for a striker, which has been ongoing now for basically ever since the transfer window started. It looks like, unless something really, has gone under the radar over the past few hours, that Ipswich are going to be ending this transfer window without that striker, which has seemed pretty obvious that they've needed. A bit of a strange one.
It is a strange one because it should have been a priority, but also it's January is the worst time of year to go out and get a striker, because who wants to let go of their top goal scorer, right? No one's going to do that for a cheap price or a respectable price for a Championship club. So Ipswich are going to have to paying a lot of money for a player at that point. It's not like Kiefer Moore can be available on loan again, is it? That was when they were obviously in the 2024 transfer window. They went out and got Kiefer Moore. He proved pivotal for them at key points, but players like that aren't available every single season. They should have done this in the summer. They thought they were doing that in the summer with Chirakpom and even Azon. It's not worked out. George Hurst is fine, but they are lacking that penetrative number 9 who can really do some damage, and that's a problem. But that dates back to the summer. They're not getting one this window isn't a surprise, because how hard it is to go out and get a player who's going to fire you the goals to get you promoted at this stage of the season. It's impossible.
Well, we were saying last week that while they, you talk about getting a striker who is already firing in the Championship is very difficult, but they were being linked with Sam Surridge from
great signing.
MLS. He would have been a great signing. Joel Piroux from Leeds as well, who's been used sparingly in the Premier League this season. So they've put the feelers out there, but it's just not been done for whatever reason. And that seems a bit mad, because that does look like it, as we sit here right now, like it could have been the difference between Ipswich getting automatically promoted and not. because that is the clear area where they've needed to strengthen this window. Obviously, they got in Dan Neil last week, fantastic signing. And you look at the rest of the squad, incredibly strong, but striker is just so obviously where they needed to strengthen. And George Hurst is fine. Maybe they will still get promoted with him. But someone who is a certified bagsman would really make all the difference for Ipswich. So why that's not happened, I'm not sure at all. And how Ipswich go on without one is going to be interesting, because that is surely where they needed to improve, but it's just not happened for whatever reason. One transfer which has definitely caught my eye, Justin, in the last couple of hours, has this now been confirmed? I thought I did see it confirmed. Maybe it's not actually. It was for Oxford United. They appear to be getting Adomo Emarku on loan from Millwall, someone who I rate quite highly at Millwall. I'm surprised they're letting him go, but I think that's a really good pickup for Oxford.
Yeah, he's a very good pickup for Oxford. I feel like Oxford have had quite a decent window, to be honest with you. They signed some really good attackers who have got a decent amount of potential in like Jamie Donnelly and Miles Pope-Harris, and Marco comes in and adds to that. He's a lively player. He probably struggled for a little bit of consistency, and he's probably been left behind a little bit for Millwall's ambitions this season. I think move to Oxford probably suits him a lot, because he's going to get a lot of game time. And he adds a skill set there that Oxford don't currently have, which is very direct, pacey winger who's got a lot of game time at this level. So yeah, it's a good signing. I think Millwall, they're probably just happy with Tommy Watson coming in, and that paves the way for Marco to come out. So they probably feel like they've got the necessary depth there. So that's probably that. But Oxford have got a good player there.
Yeah, I definitely. He's still very young. He's got a lot of raw potential. I think that could be a really good signing for Oxford. But there we go, ladies and gents. I think that just about wraps things up here for our transfer window roundup. One final thing that I will just point out, which we had a few question marks earlier, technically not championship related, but it is indirectly, is that Crystal Palace have now announced that Jørgen Strand Larsen has signed, which should open up the door for Adam Armstrong to leave Southampton and go to Wolves, which, as we were saying earlier, did seem to be pending on what happened with Jean-Philippe Mateta going from Crystal Palace to Milan. That's not happened for whatever reason, but Strand Larsen has still signed for Palace. So I would expect Adam Armstrong to go out the door still there, which is still very interesting. Justin, we'll wrap up, shall we, with what is your signing of the deadline day deals, which we've talked about here today? It's been a busy one, without a doubt, hasn't it? There's been a lot going on, as always, when it comes to transfer deadline day. But is there one out of all of these, which we've spoken about here, which has really captured your imagination?
I mean, Kalvin Phillips captures the imagination, doesn't it? Because he's such an eye-opening player at this level. If that gets over the line, I don't think it's been confirmed yet. I'm just scrolling through now. I think Frank Onyeka for Coventry, I really do think is such a pivotal signing. And if Coventry's form's going to improve, it's because he's in that team. They need him. They absolutely need him. Again, he's going to be such a key player for Coventry if they win promotion. He'll be a game changer for them. So certainly a player coming in and having a lot of impact. Frank Onyeka does stick out for me.
Got a comment here from Jamie who says, to be fair, Ipswich are the second highest goal scorers, even with a naff striker, which is a fair point, Jamie. But just finding that extra bit more can go an awful long way, can't it? When it comes to getting promotion over the line. I think for me, Justin, I would look at Tommy Watson to Millwall as my signing of deadline day, even though I think it was technically yesterday. But the signing of the final 24 hours of the transfer window is what we'll say. Because I think with the sheer amount of ability which we saw in brief spells at Sunderland last season, I think it can be a real game changer for them. And I'm really looking forward to seeing how he gets on in a Millwall shirt, and the thought of Femi Aziz on one side, Tommy Watson on the other, of course with Mihailo Ivanovic up front. Yeah, that's a really exciting attacking three with a lot of potential, a lot of room for growth, and in the second half of the season could really flourish altogether. So yeah, I think that's a really tasty move. Joe Wildsmith from West Brom to Middlesbrough is definitely up there in my mind, but I think Tommy Watson just tips it over the edge for me personally.
Maybe. I'm just getting a done deal here, Ryan.
Go on.
Tom Bradshaw's left Oxford. He's gone to Barnsley.
Oh, no. Flipping heck.
He can't score against Derby this season. That's a positive for us.
That is true, but losing Tom Bradshaw, that has ruined my evening. It's got to be said. But there we go, ladies and gents. This has been the Second Tier's roundup of Transfer Deadline Day. I went a bit Jim White there, didn't I?
You're trying.
Transfer Deadline Day.
So Scottish. That's too Scottish.
But there we go. We truly hope you've enjoyed this hour-long roundup of everything going on from across the busiest day of the winter months, ladies and gents. But thank you very much for joining us if you have been along for the ride. Thank you very much for anyone who's been leaving your comments and your questions. We really do appreciate and enjoy your interactions whenever we do these live streams. And of course, we'll be continuing to live stream every Sunday weekend show at 6:30 on Sunday. So make sure you join us then for that. We will have another live stream coming up next Monday. Can't remember the game off the top of my head. I believe Middlesbrough involved. Middlesbrough Sheffield United, I think, is standing out on the top of my head. So we'll be back again with another live stream for that, as opposed to, as aside from all that, we will be back with another podcast episode next Thursday. We'll be talking about the random group of midweek games which we've got coming up tomorrow, which are all the abandoned/postponed games from a few weeks ago, as well as any transfer deadline day news which we haven't covered here today. So we look forward to seeing you then for that on Thursday. But otherwise, this has been the Second Tier Podcast. I've been Ryan Dilks.
I've been Justin Peach.
And a big thank you for watching.